Sweet.
Diddlin and British Strongman podcast. Welcome back, Shane. So we decided to have pretty much November, well, all of November off, didn't we? Because we've both had both been really busy. Instead of like just compromising the kind of podcast each week, we just decided to have a little bit of time off and then get back to it in December. So that's what we're going to do now. So back to the weekly episodes. So today, what I want to talk about is which is really relevant to most of us who compete, is a lot of us have hit a peak recently with the competition season, and seems to be the off season for quite a lot of people. So what are the biggest things that you're noticing as a coach, Shane?
So I'm noticing people kind of freestyling the sessions a little bit, not being as attentive with feedback, and I just basically it gets to that time of year where it's hard for sometimes people. The goal of off season is to work on your weaknesses and build up the things that you ain't so good at, lay some foundations for the next year. Maybe it's, if you've got niggles and injuries, it can be rehabilitating them to make sure you're fresh. When there's so many things that off season can be for, but let's be straight, they're all fucking bullshit, really, and people don't enjoy them as much as peaking for a big comp and ramping the loads and maxing out and all this. And it's really tempting to go. One of the things I don't like is I sometimes don't like when people want to enter like Christmas max out comps, because it takes although it gives them a bit of motivation, it takes all the focus away from doing the things that you don't get to do during competition season. It makes it all about peaking again. So for me, the thing I've noticed is just what I notice every fucking year, which is it's hard to stay motivated on those goals that they're kind of like you're laying the foundations down, aren't you, for a good competition season next. Like I noticed you, Josh, you said that you'd recently changed to stiff bar, full grip, fucking deficit, raw deadlift, whatever, and you were like on a and it's just like, this is a hard variation.
Yeah, mate, it's fucking minging, honestly.
Yeah, but that's that you don't really get a chance to like push that really hard when you've got a suit coming up, do you? So even though it's less weight, it's probably a little less enjoyable per se. That to get the most out of your progression next year, you need to do this shit now, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. And so I suppose like the thing is for me, what I'm doing as an athlete and as a coach is you've just got to adapt your mindset and just like I suppose embrace.
It's a word, isn't it?
Pardon?
So delayed gratification's like the kind of a good way to.
Yeah. So I suppose that's a way of looking at it. Thinking about like broadening the base and then peaking higher next time or whatever. Which, to be honest, it's nothing new. These kind of things that we're saying, it's nothing new. Everybody knows, but like applying them practically into like a lot of people just kind of. Quite a few people go off the boil, and I just think it's like an ideal opportunity to like build some new skills, build up work up your weaknesses and stuff. Like it's been great for me doing some I suppose I found out how kind of disciplined I've been in the last 5 or 6 months, really, because doing stuff that like I've just been mauling myself with log like a couple of times a week because that's what I needed to be, I suppose, competent at. And like I've done a bit of axle, a bit of dumbbell in the last couple of weeks that I enjoy doing a lot more. And it's just been like, fuck me, just so much fun. So I would say to people, obviously like taking the kind of boring and serious approach. We want to be working weaknesses and build like broadening the base, but also as well, like use it as an opportunity to do something fun, to do some different things, do some different skills that are inevitably going to come up. Like for me, I like dumbbells, so I'm going to do it for a couple of times a week whilst I don't need to be doing it for a specific comp. I like doing axle. I might do some other stuff I enjoy. I might bring some cleans back in or something.
Well, that's what I have done for a lot of my guys. Is basically, I found that this last year's competition season for a lot of my guys was very loggy. It was a loggy year, I found personally. So I've got a lot of guys doing dumbbell and axle because they had a bit of a break off it, and I had a feeling that axle and dumbbell was going to be a bit more popular next year, and then it randomly came out that they put it in the online qualifier, which was lucky because a lot of my guys have been literally just practicing it for the last 2 months.
Which online qualifier is this for?
For the England Strongest Man. And one, I think it's both, not just both, but yeah, it's Max Axel Clean and Press is the online entry.
Brilliant.
So a lot of them I've been practicing axle with and dumbbell, just because whenever there's an event that's a bit favoured, you know that the competition organisers are probably going to be like, oh, well, we did that last year. We'll, do a medley, or we'll do something different. So, yeah, like you say, practicing new, because in strongman there's so many things to get good at, isn't there?
Yeah.
And you can always find something that you're like not that great at and work on it. And I think that it also makes it, well, for me anyway, it makes it a bit more enjoyable if like I've got something that I kind of feel like I'm starting from scratch a little bit, and I get to get my hands in and feel the positions. And then also it's motivational because even though you're in off season, you're going to be hitting like PBs and, doing well in the lift because you're kind of new to it and you're not as skilled and you're practicing your skills. But sometimes seeing that progression is enough to keep you motivated. But I do a lot of the things I got were about motivation in off season, and admittedly, it's just difficult. Even when I was in my kind of competing prime, I would always struggle in off season because my mindset was so fucking all in for like so many months that it was almost like I needed a little bit of a break. So another thing I say to people is, it's all right to take a little bit of time here and there in this period of the year. You still got to have your goals, you're still getting your sessions and stuff, but just because you miss one session, you don't have to steamroll it into a missed week. You know what I mean? You can just be like, couldn't do this, or whatever, but then you get back on it and then you're still going to progress. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So for me, like I can't afford I can't afford to have like time off, like, because if I had like 2 weeks off, that's why I'm scared of ever having like time off training, because I'd just go and find something else to get interested in and probably be obsessed with that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So that's the thing for someone like with my mindset is like really obsessive and like, I think it's important to like adapt what you're doing, rather than kind of having these peaks and rather than like potentially having time off. So a thing that I like to use for people like me is like just narrowing the scope a little bit. Instead, it might be doing a phase where somebody's been hitting 4 sessions a week, and we might just go down to 3 sessions a week, or it might be for like say it might be a month or 6 weeks or something, or basically get you to the point where you like say, I want the client to be like, oh, I've really enjoyed doing 3 sessions a week, but I'm itching to get back to my 4th session. Can we add it in? And when you get somebody to that point, then it's brilliant, rather than potentially like over phasing somebody. They've missed the 4th session for
if you miss
weeks in a row, and
it gives you this negative like, oh, I've not hit it, I'm failing. Exactly. I'm missing my sessions, I'm not motivated. Whereas if you just have 3 sessions and it's manageable, keeps that positive mindset. Like, I'm ticking off what I need to tick off. I'm not behind. And whereas I'm different to that. I could have 4 sessions.
Yeah.
It's one week, and it doesn't. I'm just like, oh, it's cool, and I'll catch up with it over the next. Whereas I know what you mean. Other people's mindset is gonna. They need the routine and to tick the boxes out all the time.
So I suppose for us, it's important to identify which kind of mindset our clients fit into with that, and adjust appropriately. But also for the people listening, it's like, which mindset do you resonate more with? And it's about using, I suppose, tactics and styles that is basically gonna like we say all the time, like what's going to keep you doing it long term is like having fun and being engaged in it. So what's actually going to keep you more engaged? So like a tactic for me, again, another thing that I have used with people in the recent time is like, say, just cutting down the sessions a little bit, instead of having like taking an exercise or 2 out, or taking like maybe like, say, a lot of the sessions that I program are like whole body based, where they might be doing like, say, cycling intensities of different exercises, whereas actually it might be doing a little phase of, you know what, we're doing a deadlift day, you're doing 3 or 4 exercises, you're doing an overhead day a couple of days later, and then we're doing some kind of moving events and some loading on a 3rd day or whatever. So basically you've done your heavy deadlifts, and then you're doing like a different deadlift variation. You're already warmed up for that pattern. If you want to get home and you want to go to fucking a Christmas grotto or whatever with your kids, like you can get to the gym and be done in 45 minutes and gone through this, and you're not having the barrier of, oh, well, I've got to do that, and then I've got to make sure the log's free, and then I've got farmers walks to do, and then some light stone to finish. Like, if you're thinking about planning that in your head, like you just got to make it simple and give yourself some, like, how can you, with your training, give yourself some like low-hanging fruits? So like another thing might be, you might be somebody who usually trains to like certain percentages. You might be like, right, well, I'm doing 4x5 at 75% on deadlift tonight. Whereas actually, like, just change around your workout and just say, right, I'm going to do four sets of 5, starting at 55%, and I'll add weight if it feels good. Like something like that might actually be more suitable for you to stick to in this kind of phase. It might be actually you just aim for a volume goal. You might just give yourself sets and reps and leave the weight down to the day. So another strategy that for somebody like me as well, who I know I said it yesterday about my deadlift session, delayed gratification, blah blah blah, I'm doing lighter and graft, whatever. But also for my mindset, I just love like pushing myself or lifting heavy, or basically I fucking love maxing out, like I've said loads of times before. So basically what I like to do is like I'll do the kind of delayed gratification stuff as the kind of chunk of my work, but I suppose taking like I don't know what you want to call it, like a kind of
I'm gonna say what I think. I call them rewards. I sometimes write in a program, you know, about if you do a bit of graph for like a couple of sessions in a row, you kind of get them to have a bit of freestyle, a bit heavier, and tick that little box in your head. Is that what you're gonna say?
Oh, I was gonna say almost like a conjugate style of like, say, just basically like a max effort on a fucking different variation that.
Yeah.
So you're getting that kind of mental stimulation that I'm fucking thrive off. I'm feeling like I'm maxing out, but neurally I may not be completely smoking myself because my skill level on that exercise is a little bit lower. So I'm not going to give myself that damage in theory. Does that make sense? An example for me was like doing 10-minute max on split jerk dumbbell on Friday night when I was packing up. And I was just like, right, that was my constraint. I've got 10 minutes. Start with the empty dumbbell, whatever, bang some plates in, split jerk. That's my constraint. I've never really done it before. And then I built up and I got like a relatively heavy weight ticked off. I was fucking buzzing. But like it'd be easy to recover from and not very taxing, not stealing much time from the graph work in the program and stuff.
That's giving me some ideas, that's good, because I've been doing, like, for the guys that I know hate fucking putting, well, they don't hate it, but they just want to lift heavy. So if I give them 3 or 4 weeks on the trot of like progressive volume, I know they're just going to do something random in the middle of it, and they're going to tell me they're going to do a top triple or something. So what I started doing was adding in a reward where I'm like, you got 2 weeks of this, and then I'm going to let you take a single before you graft or whatever. But I might do what you said and be like, give them a different variation of like the deadlift or whatever.
Yeah.
So that they can kind of go a bit ham, but like you say, because of the skill side of stuff, and they're not trained in the position, they're going to limit the load exposure, aren't they? So that's giving me no ideas, because you got because the thing is, you got to work with the individual, haven't you, Josh? So you got to know what you're like, and you got to know what the client's like. So if you know that they're not going to enjoy doing 4 to 6 weeks of linear volume, then you need to put something in there that's going to keep them interested and enjoying it.
Like almost like dressing it up as something else, basically.
Yeah, but the other guys that love that volume shit and would do it for fucking 4 months, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
you just tailor it to yourself, haven't you? And if you're listening and you program yourself, just fucking be honest with yourself and be like, how do I feel after I've done, say you do 5 by, once I did 5 by 5, you know, adding weight, like 5 kilo a week on deadlift. I did it for about 6 months. And I just fucking like a robot, just like, so it doesn't personally phase me doing it. But I know from programming people, after 3 or 4 weeks,
yeah,
mate, like, when am I not going to do 5 by 5 anymore?
Yeah, well, I'll speak from the other side, Shane. Like I like to like overachieve, I suppose. Like if I fit, because like if I'm doing like say a linear 5 by 5 on something or whatever, 3-4 weeks in a row, I get to the point where I get really like anxious about hitting like that was really hard last week and I've got to add another 5 kilos to this. I'm like thinking like, I just get so kind of obsessed and wound up about it. It's not just the session. I can't just, a lot of people that I go through, like turn up to the session, look at the phone, oh, what am I doing? Oh, great, blah, blah, blah. Like I'm thinking about it all the fucking time. And if it's something that's really challenging, like that I think, oh, well, shit, what if this happens? What if I've had a bad night's sleep and this happens or whatever? What if the right thing is to go a little bit lighter on that session, but I've got to do that because... doing the stuff where what's kind of open-ended, like where you're kind of saying, go and have a thrash at this, like really suits my mindset, because 9 times out of 10, I'll go and do really well on that thing and I'll flip that switch. And I'm never like... I suppose the problem with open-ended stuff with certain people is certain people like won't actually push themselves hard enough. So like the linear kind of thing keeps them accountable to working at a certain level. Whereas actually there's quite a lot of people who will go the other way, who anyway, fucking talking shit. But practically...
It's interesting because I think I kind of came up in this strength scene in a time where that was just what you did. You know what I mean? Like nobody really spoke about any other way of doing stuff. It was like start at this percentage and then add weight until you get to this percentage and then drop the reps and keep adding. So you'll just be like the most linear thing in the world. And it kind of like builds this tight, like, for example, I know when I do 5 by 5 or something linear progression, I know because I've done it so many times, I know there's a week where I'm like, fuck me, that was really hard. How the hell am I going to do next week? That week always appears. But I always do the next week anyway, even though at first I was anxious. But then when you've done that cycle like 3 or 4 times, you're like, oh, I'm at this point again. You know what I mean? And then it kind of like eases your mind. So I do completely understand what you mean about when you get to that point where you're like, how the fuck am I going to do it? But I think just because of that old school way of, you know, no one knew how to undulate training that I knew back in the day. So it was that all we had really was, just fucking basically linear progressions. And if you did go off plan, that's what you called it. If you did a single or a triple or you did some at maxi, it was like, I fucking broke the rules, I fucked up. So it was weird because it was like almost a negative feedback that way, because you thought you were fucking up your progress. So, but then as I've got older and learned more about training, you realise that you need to have a little bit of both, don't you? For everyone, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think, 100%. Like you need to be able to tolerate that. You need to be able to tolerate that volume, but because it's going to be so beneficial, because the volume is going to dictate what your tonnage that you lift on in any given cycle. Like if you don't do volume work, you're not going to lift that much tonnage, are you really? If all you're doing is doubles and singles and stuff. But also if you're just a volume freak, and you see it with, like, say for instance, like a lot of like bodybuilders who, like, they've got a massive 20 rep max, or they can do loads on 10s or whatever, and you think fucking, you extrapolate that up to like a projected 1 RM, and they can't get near it because they're not used to tapping into that kind of the neural side mentally, physically, or whatever. Yeah,
it's changed, don't they? You know what I mean? Like you pull a 70% dead, you could probably keep a pretty straight back. But then if you don't spend that time at 90% plus, figure out what's optimal, can you? Because you want to lift your volume with the same positions as your maxes. But if you never really do your heavy work, you can almost convince yourself like, this is how I should be lifting this heavy weight. But then when you try to, you're like, well, why is my shoulders moving? You know, or whatever.
And then on the flip side, you get the say kind of like like a power lifter who's come into strongman, who's been used to doing a lot of like doubles and triples and never like anything over a set of 5 is cardio or whatever. And then you get these guys doing sets of 8 or sets of 10 or sets of 12 in the program that's likely going to be is definitely going to be useful for the strongman comps in terms of energy systems, and they're absolutely fucked. So yeah, like we're saying, it is definitely beneficial, like say doing both, and you can use your off season to kind of practice that. So like we said, if we can use the volume accumulation to intelligently highlight those weaknesses, imbalances and stuff on your main exercises, maybe skill deficits, like say an example, a skill deficit, for instance, what I was doing the other day. What was I doing? Continental cleans on axle. I was doing like continental cleans into push press, because push press is the variation that I'd least likely to do at a comp, and continental clean would be the least likely variation of a clean I'd do at a comp. So I just haven't done that much of them. So to drill the position, I was doing like sets of 8 or something really light, and with the focus on improving my breathing over the course of the set, so they got easier. So I've got all this tonnage in at volume. And I
actually have a YouTube video going out at 3:00 of my first session back on Axel yesterday, and I was actually saying that exact thing, like don't be afraid to go, silly light and just practice. I didn't get as intricate as breathing, but you can break down, you can just, I kind of said it on video, but it's just like, have fun with it, make it light, do sets of certain things, and then like maybe you think, I'm going to do a few extra, I'm going to rest it on my stomach, and I'm going to do a few extra dips this set just to practice my dip on my clean, and then the next set you can work on your drive, your push, just like pick something each set to like pluck at. And then I don't even, I mean, when I program people, I'll give sets on a bit more specific. But for me, I kind of just had this little complex to do on the axle, and I just wrote do shitloads. And I just kept going until I was like, right, I'm done here now. Like, you kind of know when you're done, don't you? But even though I went light, I practiced good skill.
Yeah.
And got loads of work in. So yeah.
And that's it. And you know what? Like, I think that what you just said is a brilliant kind of form of programming. And I use it very, very frequently with people. And I'll just put a certain exercise and I'll just put 20 minutes practice. I might put it in one week. And like a few years ago, I'd have been scared to put something like that because you'd just think, oh, so-and-so's paying me and I'm just telling him to fucking do the exercise that's obvious. And just tell them to practice over a window of time. But what you'll find with a lot of people, like if you wrote that for somebody, Shane, and then looked at the feedback that you got, like 9 times out of 10, it's like really positive, and you're saying stuff. Oh, like I explored this new position, I tried this, that I stayed at this, and you get an idea of what kind of work they're doing. Like some people get so creative with it, you know, like putting complexes together and. It's just great, but the I suppose the added value of doing something like that is it takes away completely that mental pressure of, oh, I've got to do 5 sets of 3 at whatever %, or I've got to progress from last week. It's just
because with your skill work, it don't fucking matter, does it? Like it don't matter. Like you could do 1 set where you do 2 cleans and then 1 push, or then you could do, you know, a fucking power clean and a fucking split, you know, just spending, like saying with an axle, I'm using an example here, just spending time on the implement and just doing stuff with it and learning to like flow with it and gaining that proprioception and awareness of how you can apply force into it. Don't matter whether you do 5 sets of 3, 20 sets of fucking 1, or, you know what I mean? If you come away from the session with stuff that you learned from, it's good.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Right, well, let's wrap it up there. So nice one to get back into it. So we're giving people some ideas what they can be implementing in the off season, and also as well, like any of our clients that listen to this, and if we've said something that you think, oh shit, I'd quite like to try that or whatever, like just put it in your feedback, and Shane and I'll just implement it for the next bit. If there's some stuff that you want to try or whatever, like now is an ideal time, and just enjoy doing some different stuff.
Yeah, I think as well, another thing to end on is if you've got a coach, or it's also somebody else, just be honest with your coach, because if you're struggling, because I found this in my clients, that like I don't have that many female clients, but the female clients that I do, they tell me this stuff. So I don't know if it's a bit of a man thing, but they'll suffer in silence almost, and they won't be enjoying something, or they might not be sticking to it, but they're ticking that they're doing it and they're not. And then I don't have a fucking clue what's going on. Just be honest with your coach, because if you're not enjoying something, or you're not finding something beneficial, or you're just like looking at your session and going, oh, I really don't want to fuck out the arse of this, and you're dragging yourself through it, just tell us, because this programming is like so moldable. You know, you can do whatever the fuck you want, and we can make it.
And to be honest, mate, that's what gives us a buzz about our job, and that's why what keeps us like mentally like fucking, it makes us tick, is because we're creative with what we do. Like,
yeah, I want to survive lockdown if I wasn't creative.
but that's it. Like that's the enjoyable thing. It's like we don't just go on like fucking. Anyway, I'm not gonna go down another rabbit hole. Right. See you later, mate. Nice one. So see you next week, yeah?
Yeah, sweet. Take care, mate.
Nice one.